What is going on, guys? I am back with another review of a day at an amusement park, and today I am reviewing June 6th, 2025 at my favorite Pennsylvanian amusement park, Knoebels Amusement Resort. So, when I first got to the park, I got my ride all day wristband, and then rode paratrooper first. Sorry if I started a bit, but anyways, after I got my ride all day wristband, I started with paratrooper today, and it was a good little rain ride on it. And then after paratrooper, I rode Phoenix, and then after Phoenix, I headed to Flying Turns, and then after Flying Turns, I rode Twister, and then after Twister, I rode Downdraft. And then after Downdraft, I rode Rockleplane. And then after Rockleplane, I rode Anti-Cars. And and then after Anti-Cars, I rode Cosmotron because it was pouring rain out there after that. And then after Cosmotron, I kind of like seeked shelter for a while due to the rain. And then after some time, I rode Teacups, and then after Teacups, I rode Black Diamond. And by the time I got off Black Diamond, the rain started to slow down a bit. So after Black Diamond, I headed over to Stratosphere for 2 rides on it, actually. And then after those 2 rides on Stratosphere, I headed over to Twister, where it opened where it officially reopened at just a few moments after I headed into the station. And yeah, so I was able to get a ride in on Twister because it had reopened after a few moments after I headed over there, because it had just reopened after the rainstorm. And so I was able to get another ride in on Twister. And then after Twister, I headed over to Impulse. And then after Impulse, I actually headed to Crystal Pool for the first time in 2025. And I got 13 rides on Slidewinder and 6 on Twin Twister. And like I might have said after Slide with Ace, Twin Twister, in my opinion, isn't as bad as I remember it being when I rode it during my teenage days. And yeah, so I think I would say Twin Twisters is smoother now, but Slidewinders takes the cake with me when it comes to slides in Crystal Pool, because yeah, it's a decent tube slide. And yeah, so after my time in Crystal Pool, I think that's when I headed to Italian Trapeze. And then after Italian Trapeze, I headed over to Satellite. And then after Satellite, I remember I think that's when that might have been when I headed to Grand Carousel. And then after Grand Carousel, I headed to Roto-Jets. And then after Roto-Jets, I got a re-ride in on Paratrooper. And then after that re-ride on Paratrooper, I rode Paradrop. Shout out Laura at Paradrop today. And then after Paradrop, I headed to Giant Flume. Shout out William at Giant Flume. And then after Giant Flume, I headed for another ride in on Phoenix. And then after Phoenix, I headed to Downdraft for 2 more rides on it. And I'm pretty sure I had a re-ride on Rockleplane at 1.2. And then after that, I had 3 more rides on Stratosphere. And then after that, I had 2 more rides on Twister. Shout out Julia at Twister today, by the way. And yeah, so after after those 2 rides on Twister, I headed to Pioneer Train, I think it was. Yeah, and then after Pioneer Train, I did Merry Mixer. And then after Merry Mixer, I did Sklooge. And then after after Sklooge, I headed over to the Alamo for dinner. And then after that, Italian Trapeze. And then after that, I think that's when I rode scooters, yeah. And then after scooters, I headed over to Grand Carousel for a re-ride. And then after Grand Carousel, I headed to Stony Gables for my usual Wurzel and candy and all that. And then after that, I headed for the usual, a night ride on Stratosphere. And then after the night ride on Stratosphere came the usual night ride on Downdraft. I try to get at least one night ride on Downdraft every Knoebels visit, and that they're open later. That they're open at night at least. That's what I meant to say. And then after that night ride on Downdraft, I did my Twister marathon of night ride. I did my marathon of night rides at Twister. Again, shout out Julia and the whole entire Twister crew for always pumping out those trains at Twister. And yeah, and I love getting night rides at Twister, and it's always a great end to a summer day at Knoebels. And yeah, so with that being said, that concludes this vlog. This review of June 6, 2025 at Knoebels. Again, I forgot. Shout out Mac at Sklooge, and of course, shout out to all the ride ops who recognized me at Knoebels today. And shout out, and as always, a shout out goes to the Knoebels staff for an awesome day at my favorite Pennsylvanian amusement park. And that goes for every visit I've had to my favorite Pennsylvanian amusement park, including the spontaneous visit I had 2 days before the June 6th visit that I'm talking about. And yeah, so anyways, that basically concludes this review of June 6th, 2025 at Knoebels. So make sure to reply to me your thoughts on this video, and make sure to stay tuned for more coming soon here to Coaster Plus Music 19, especially from my favorite Pennsylvanian amusement park, Knoebels Amusement Resort. And make sure to go check out my merch store on Bonfire. I'll have a link in the description. I sell t-shirts, face masks, all the things, so make sure to go check it out. I'll have a link in the description. And make sure to subscribe if you're new, and turn on post notifications so you will not miss when I upload a new video. And I will see you in the next.